I was asked by some viewers about composition, like where I shoot, how I shoot. They weren't necessarily talking about framing and all that, maybe a little bit. They were talking more about the composition of my space, like where do I have things, where do I stand, what's my camera setup, how do I do the mic thing and all that. And so I thought I would show you, and maybe you'll learn something, or maybe you'll just go, okay, well, whatever, I don't know. But let's just take a look around. I have myself lapelled here just in case I walk away from this microphone, and I have my little smooth 4 that I can walk around and at least show you some shots. They're not going to be epic. They're shot on the phone. The white balance is going to be all off, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't matter. I just want to show you what you've got. So let's start with my rig. About, I'd say 5, maybe 6 feet away from me. Get this guy going. Is my camera setup. If you look over here, there's a little nook there, and I have the tripod set up. My camera's on there, my monitor's on there so I can see me. Over here I have a battery power powering both of these units. It's sitting on a tripod. I just have a C-stand back there with a blanket to cut down on a little bit of the sound. Same with those things around there, and that's basically it. Now if you come over here, let's point this thing down so I can show you what I got. Looking down right there, that's where I stand. I know if I stand right here with my feet, I know I'm going to be in the perfect position looking at that camera at the perfect distance for my focus. All I got to do is plant my foot right, my right foot right on there, and I'm good. Let's take it back up. Sometimes I set this table in front of me. I have a drink and various things, possibly a stool to sit down on. This contains things that I may need. Various stuff, different microphones, stuff like that, different tools, gaffer's tape, some headphones and things like that that I might need. Then above me, right above here, is my microphone. Let me move back and I'll show you what's going up here. Let's go up. There's the microphone right there. And that's sitting, oh, I don't know. Maybe if I had longer fingers, if I did that and had long fingers, that's how high. It's just sitting here right out of frame, and it's pointing down right about here at me. That's the guy right up there. That runs down this boom pole. There's a sandbag on the end so it doesn't fall over. That runs down this stand here. There's my Zoom 8.6, which I'm recording into right now. And that's the light stand that I have everything sitting on. So that's pretty much what we have for that. Now, lighting wise, over here to the right, I have an Aputure Tri-8. It's mounted on a wall. Let me go over and show this to you. You see that stand right there? Those were some cool wall mounting brackets that I did an actual video on, because I don't like stands. I mean, even this stand sitting here and going up, I'm going to get rid of that. Over here I have, that's my key light over here. It's a much brighter. That's my fill light over here. It's the same thing. It's an Aputure Tri-8. I love these lights. They always work. I've had them for 8-9 months. And there's that stand I was, wall-mounted stand that I have over there. And that's my lighting. Now, behind me, let's turn around and look behind me. Up here, I have another Aputure Tri-8, and it's sitting on one of those mounts that up there. And then just for some added loveliness, I have a can light with a red light bulb there. I have a can light with a red light bulb there. This table over here, this is one of those crank up and down tables. And I'll put things on it when I don't need it. I'll crank it down And sometimes I put things on here. Down here, we have an Aputure LS 1/2. That's just shooting up this wall. I'm going to show this all to you in a minute. That's just shooting up this wall, giving it a little whatever. Excuse me. And then over here, we have a P5 TD from Pulsar. It's just a spotlight, again, mounted on a stand. And if you can see here, I have this thing kind of shielded with the barred doors doing, you know, I want it to hit this a little bit. I want to cast some shadows. I want to hit that back thing back here. This back thing back here, that's just actually a fake wall. It's a tapestry. I don't like the wall behind here. It's got a weird off color and it's always really hard. And so I just, you know, have one of these mounts. Light stand goes up there. There's a pole over there. And then we come down and there's another light stand down there. And that's pretty much, I believe, everything I got going on in here. Now, again, I'd say I'm about, I don't know, 3, 6. Yeah, I'm about 7 feet from the back wall, and from the camera, I'm about 3. Yeah. I'm probably 6 feet from the camera lens and probably 6 feet from there. And then there you go. The way I do it is I get my mark, I take my camera over there and I do it like 5 or 10 times zoom. I get my eyeballs in the frame. I press this little guy. These are like $6. They're infrared for your camera. I just press that with the camera on a autofocus. All I can see when it's zoomed up is my eye. It focuses on my eyes, takes a shot. I go over and I turn the lens off. Then I basically turn on my monitor, turn on my camera, format the card, insert the card into the Zoom 8 here, format that. I start the recorder, I start the camera, I clap 3 times or snap 3 times to get my thing going, and that's pretty much it. Now the effect of all this, let me show you. I like speed. I don't like taking a ton of time coming up here. I'm usually scripting or writing or working on a video or working on the next thing or working on the university or working on another project, and I don't have a lot of time to sit here and set up and tear down and set up and tear down, so I have everything set up. And let me show you what I have here. Let's just take everything off. Now, this is what you would normally get if you just use the lights above that are normally supplied in the room. Let me show you that. There's just a big ton of can lights up here in the ceiling. And those, I don't like those, don't really work. I do have some blackouts, these little, they're like paper things up here to cut out any light that would be coming in from those windows. And that's pretty much it. Now, that's what happens is you get this yellowish whatever, and sure, I could white balance it to that, but it doesn't really allow me to control the lighting. There's a lot of shadows and things going on. So what I do is I don't use that lighting, and let me show you what I do. Let me turn off these lights here. So the first thing I have is I have my key light that I showed you, that Aputure Tri8. It's probably set at 80, 90%, maybe 70, 80%, whatever. And all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to light this side of my face. I'm not trying to handle anything. I'm just trying to light this side of my face right there. These are, I think they're set at 5000K, 5500K, something like that. I think they're 5500, 5300K. Then the next thing is I want to add in my fill light over here. I don't want to light myself the same because then I get no depth. So there's my fill light. Now look at the difference here. See how I'm just sort of lit over here? That's probably at 40%. It's maybe at least half of that. So what happens is, there's my fill light over there. There's my key light. See if I can do them both. There's my fill light. There's my key light. There's my fill light. So, although it looks normal, what happens is that's shining a lot brighter. This is shining a little less brighter. What happens is it gives me a little depth to my face, and that's the way it works. A couple of viewers asked me if you're wondering why, if you look at, let me see if I can get this shot. This would be normally horizontal, and you'll notice the lights aren't there. The lights are up there, and they're off to the right quite a bit. The reason for that is because I wear glasses, and to have an eye light or lights over here, I get all these reflections. So the way to handle these reflections on your glasses is you take your lights and you set them up, and then you move them aside, and you'll get some lights in here, and then you pull them up a little bit. And then what happens, you can see where the shadow hits, way up there, and way up there. So they're kind of up there. They shine down. Sure, I don't get that little sparkly eye light, but what I don't get is I don't get these reflections shooting out of my eyes, and that's the way you handle the glasses thing. Now notice, right now, this looks okay. The back looks a little dull. So what I've done is I've added that hair light. The hair light is probably maybe 3 feet behind me, and I don't know, it's definitely out of frame. It's got to be 7 feet above me. Let's turn on the hair light and see that one. Now you'll notice what happens is, there's the hair light. It's probably a little bright, but that's okay. What you're trying to do is just add a little here, little thing. They also call it a rim light. Now what happens is that, notice how I just kind of fill in, I'm kind of like part of that back wall. This will actually separate you off the back wall. We live in a 2D flat universe in filmmaking, and you have to use some magic to make it, to give it some depth. So that's not very much depth, and that's definitely weird. So that adds a little depth to me in my face. That adds depth and actually sort of pulls me off the back wall. Follow so far? So those are just the 3 lights. Now the next thing I wanted to do was, I wanted to add, again, it's about adding a little depth. The back wall is kind of bland, and as I showed you, those 2 can lights up there, they have little red bulbs in them. There you go, a little more depth, a little more pulled off. Without them, with them on. Let's turn off all this other stuff and you'll see what I got here. There's the hair light or the rim light. There's the key and the fill. There you go. It really helps. These Aputure lights, I have them all on here, and this happens to be just an AC switch. I'll put links to all this stuff below. But when I come in, let me turn them all off. I come in here, I flip my lights on, I flip my back lights on, and there you go. The last light I have that I showed you on the ground, the Aputure LS1/2, watch this. Just a little bit, you see that? Let's turn off these other lights and you'll see what it's got going on here. Turn off that, and that, and that. See that? Between the little backlight, pulls me off the wall a little bit, and the hair light, I'm definitely being pulled off the wall. I add on a little red light to pull me off a little more, add a little stuff to it. then my key and my fill. You mess with these lights. You turn on your key and you get it bright, and then you turn on your fill light and you mess with it to get what looks good. You don't want this light and this light the same. You want probably like that, where you're like, oh, that's not quite bright. And then that and that's more brighter. And then you play with the background, you add all these little lights. So let's turn them on one at a time. We got our key light, number 1. We got our fill light, number 2. We have our rim or hair light, number 3. We have our floor light, just adding a little bit more there, on, off. We have our little red lights, adding even more. Now finally what I did was I showed you that P5TD light over here. Let's turn that on and you'll see what's happening. Notice I've set up, let me move this out of the way so you can see it. Back here I've set up just a little vase of flowers, fake flowers, and some guy playing I guess that's a trombone, and a cello player. And what I've done is, he looks a little with the red, so I've set that up with the barn doors to do this. See the difference? That's on, that's off. That's on, that's off. And there we are, on. So all these little elements add to the overall scene. Now, what I would do is I would turn off these red lights just to be sure. I'd probably use a white balance card or set my white balance to the 5600K lights, get everything going right, and then I would add in my red lights. Otherwise, you're going to confuse the camera. And that gives you a good color balance between these things. What else have I got? That's pretty much it. That's how I set it up. Now I suggest, it's not an easy thing. You don't just go in, turn on your camera and go unless you want to, but play with this. Have a key light. It could be a $5 Home Depot light with a little 5500K LED in there. Another one over here. If you can't afford the expensive lights, put some paper over there to diffuse them a little bit. Get another one over your head that'll pull you off the back a little bit. And then look at the background. Maybe set something up. Maybe add some flare up there. Maybe hang a giant poster or a background or something like that. And that will all create depth and everything else. The only thing you need to do now is figure out what to do with your camera, which is focus on your eyeballs, take pictures, and make sure you've got it nailed. Play with your aperture. You want the black blurry, you want it not blurry. Right now I'm using a 50mm lens on a Canon 5D, and it's set to an aperture, I think, 3.2. The shutter, let's see, where are we at? I think we're at 640. It might be 320, 640 and for the ISO. And of course the shutter speed, I film at 23.976, 24 frames a second. So the shutter set at 48 or 50. And that's pretty much how I create this feeling of depth, feeling of whatever, because as you saw, without all this stuff, that took away from it. That took away from it. Let's turn off the PTS5. That took away from it. That took away from it. And that took away from it. So now I got a rather dark, bland me. Could be if I were doing something dark. Rather bland. So play with your key light. Play with your fill light. Play with your hair or rim light. Play with lighting the background a little bit. Play with adding some extra lights, some 25 whatever watts. Throw some stuff in the background to set it off, and maybe light that a little bit. Anyway, that's kind of how I do that. I hope that helps you do some thoughts and things around this and gives you some ideas. Make sure you take the time to set your space up and light it and take a lot of pictures. I'll set everything up and then I'll take a photo and I'll look at the photo on my computer. Then I'll move some things around. Then I'll go, oh, well, that isn't lit right, and let me do that. And then I'll check the focus. I'll check where I'm standing. Do I want to be up here really close in the camera? Do I want to be way back here doing, I don't. This is pretty much perfect for me with that lens and that camera. I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some thought about composing your personal, at least, head type shots. And if you have any success with that, or you have any questions, leave a comment below and make sure to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, that bell, for more weekly videos, Tuesdays and Thursday. We'll see you later.